The Art Beat, a weekly program putting you in touch with artists and arts events from the J.T. and Margaret Talkington College of Visual and Performing Arts at Texas Tech University. Hello and welcome to The Art Beat on KLZK FM 105.7. This is your host, Peter Martins, coming to you from the Talkington College of Visual and Performing Arts at Texas Tech University. And I'm thrilled to be speaking this week for the first time, I believe, with Melissa Brading, who is an assistant professor of practice in dance at the School of Theater and Dance at Texas Tech University. Good day to you. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. We've got several things to talk to you about. I know at least one thing from a couple weeks ago, and then we'll segue and talk about something that's coming up in a couple of weeks here on campus this early fall. So first of all, why don't you tell us how long you've been here, how you came to be here, and what your general day-to-day life looks like as a dance professor at Texas Tech.
Yeah, so I'm starting my fourth year, and before I was here, I was an adjunct professor at the University of Michigan in dance, and somehow I ended up all the way over here. Typical, applied for the job and came, and I just felt like this place had really good vibes. I really enjoyed the art walk was the thing that kind of made me want to come here, because it's like, if this many people are interested in the arts and want to come together like this, then this is probably a good place to be in. And I was also kind of drawn that it was a little bit smaller. I like to know my students, and so there were a lot of things that seemed like a good fit for me.
Nice. Yeah, I will say I've had colleagues visiting during the first Friday experiences, and they are always kind of blown away by that.
Yeah, I was really surprised, but pleasantly surprised.
Good. Well, great. So kind of like me, you came down here from up north, and here we are, right? Yes. Not missing the snow.
A little bit.
A little, okay.
I like cold weather.
You do?
Yeah. Oh, you asked me my day-to-day. I mainly teach technique courses, but I also teach things like dance history, choreography, and I also teach the senior capstone course, and also kind of lead the dancers who perform in that capstone course.
Okay, so that's interesting, because I'm in my undergraduate teaching, at least, I'm typically on the side of teaching courses in subjects that students didn't necessarily come to college to study specifically. So you're kind of doing both sides. You're doing the applied dance instruction, which presumably students did come to college for, right?
Yeah.
But maybe not. They maybe didn't come to college for like the dance history or the historical techniques or that sort of thing. What do you see as someone who teaches both sides of that kind of divide in the arts as far as student receptivity? Is it easier maybe coming from someone who's also teaching them the applied side?
Yeah, for the dance history, it is an online course. It sometimes feel like I'm more curating information for them, but we do have a lot of dialogue. They have to write a lot. Most of them do come to higher education without much dance history. A lot of them are from dance studios, and that's just not something that their teachers spend time in class because, their parents are paying for them to come and take a dance class.
Right.
And I do find that they get excited about it, and it's easier for them to find themselves in dance when they can read stories about other people and to see how they got where they are. I always ask the seniors to write about where their work sits in with the broader space of dance, and a lot of them will be like, no one's ever made a piece like this. I'm like, try again. So I think it kind of broadens their idea of actually what's happening, and that there are so many things that happened for them to even just go to a jazz class and learn some steps, that a lot of things happened before that. And I think for the most part, they really like it. It is heavy writing, so some people aren't super into that, but right, I think they like geeking out on the information.
Oh, that's good. That's good. There is that component to learning a craft as well, right? Yeah. The geeking outside, right. So speaking of coming south here, a couple of weeks ago, you went even further south and wound up in Mexico City as part of the college's kind of ongoing exchange or sending of faculty down to the National Center for the Arts in Mexico City, CENART for short. And you were one of the first ones down there. And just tell us about that trip. Yeah,
it was pretty exciting. Dean Camacho came and told me about their ideas to collaborate more. And I didn't really know what I was getting into, and I was the first dance faculty to go, and I think the first person this year, and I don't speak Spanish, so I was extremely nervous about how that was going to work, because I was teaching technique, but I was also teaching a choreography workshop where I have to speak to them and they make the work, so they're not watching my body do anything. So I was super nervous, And it actually turned out really great. I had a wonderful woman named Rebecca that kind of helped me through the whole process. And she was not a translator, but she helped translate in between. And the students, it's funny, they start to see the rhythm of how I'm talking, what I'm doing, and we start to learn from each other with body language. And I start to recognize some words. I'm like, oh, okay. And it was only 3 days, and I felt like we were already starting to find this connection. The technique classes were way easier, and they picked up on nuances really easy, just looking at my body and figuring that out. There was a few people that spoke some basic English, but for the most part, they didn't. The students were amazing, super thoughtful. The choreography workshop was really interesting. We had a really long process that started outside and then inside, and we slowly kind of gathered people. So they had solo work and then duet work and then larger group works. And I was really impressed with the stuff that they made. What's different about their school is that their dancers are separated from their choreographers.
Oh, interesting.
And our choreographers here, like our senior choreographers, usually are more dancers than they are choreographers. So the work looks different based on that. And there's some really exciting things happening there. The contemporary dancers were fantastic and really focused. And I think I was the start of their year. So it was, something that got them ready to jump back into classes. And it was a really great experience.
Okay, you got to shake off some of their rust or something, help them shake off some of their rust.
Yeah, and I was impressed with how attentive they were, even though they probably didn't understand anything I was saying. They don't know who I am. And they had to be patient. Like, we were in silence for like 2 days, and I did that on purpose, and we added sound as we went along, but they stayed with me even, I could tell they were kind of like, this takes some patience, like, because we had to watch some stuff for a very long time. And I brought that to their attention. We were kind of going off a text that I sent them ahead of time and hitting some spots through that text. And so that's why we were going through that process. But they trusted me and just sat in and took everything in, and I was really impressed with the stuff that they made. It was pretty innovative.
Great. And did it culminate? I know you were there for just a short time, but did your workshops culminate in some sort of even informal performance?
Not really, because it was so short. I was only there for 3 days. We didn't want to have this expectation that we had to put something out because we wanted to focus more on process. But each day we were kind of working on a different kind of piece with the choreography students. So some people would come in at the end of the day and watch, what we were doing. But it was definitely more process-based. With the contemporary dancers, we did learn some choreography of mine after it. We took a 2-hour technique class, and then we learned a little bit of choreography each day. And so we did learn some pieces of that, and we would perform it for each other, and some people would come and watch.
Okay.
So a little bit, but more about process.
So did you get a sense with these students that there was a substantial difference in their background training, coming into the kind of college level versus our students here in the States?
Yes, because they were all labeled as contemporary dancers. So I think most of their background was in contemporary dance. Our dancers do most of their techniques here equally, hip hop, jazz, ballet, and then contemporary. But also contemporary can be so different depending on who's teaching it. Anything can really be contemporary. I found that they were very adaptable, but I could see in their bodies that there was different training happening, and there were some ballet students there, but they were there for contemporary. But no, I don't know if I saw any major differences.
But obviously, it sounds like there's more of a distinction retained between different types of dance in that culture versus, like you say here, you have to learn all of these tools.
Right. And part of me, that's just kind of what we have to do as artists is learn how to do everything. And I encourage that with the students, but also I kind of miss specialists, and I think that sometimes people in college now, especially dancers, because they have to learn every single style, they have to choreograph all of these things, that you don't get overly good in one place. Like, you have to spread all of that out.
Sure.
And I really like to see people who really own the thing that they do well and really dig into that. And sometimes I feel like the world doesn't really give us space to do that now because we're just being asked to do everything.
That's such an interesting perspective, because sometimes you hear lamenting about kind of the opposite thing, like we're so specialized now, right? If you're a whatever. So it's interesting to hear that there is some of the opposite problem as well, and that you're maybe looking for more specialization.
Yeah, and I think dancers get lumped together, like, oh, you're dancers, you dance. But there's so many different types of dance, and our faculty is very specialized. Like, I don't teach hip hop because I don't specialize in that. Could I cobble a class together? Maybe, but like that doesn't serve the students. That's why we have Why Not,
Sure,
who's beyond a specialist in that genre. And I think that's really helpful for students to see people who have dug really deep into the thing that they do.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. So speaking of coming back to the States here and on campus now, you are all of a sudden right in the middle of preparing for the fall big dance performance. So
Yes.
When and what?
So the student preview starts on Tuesday, November 11th, and then the shows run 11/12 through 16. So that's a Wednesday through Sunday. This year we don't have shows on Saturday because we have limited parking because of the football games. So that's just something to note if this is a show that you normally come to. There won't be any shows on Saturday, but we've added an extra show on Sunday, so there will be a matinee and an evening show on this Sunday.
Oh, okay. And this is the Fall Dance Festival,
Yes,
right?
Fall Dance Festival. So this is our senior capstone students. This is their final project. They all create work to perform in this show. And then we generally take one or two pieces from that show to a conference in the spring where they can get feedback from professionals in the field.
Okay, nice. So these seniors in creating their works, do they automatically involve themselves as a dancer, or do they have kind of the whole class to work with as an ensemble?
The BFAs have to do a group work and a solo. So their group work they are not in. We hold auditions for the group work, so all the seniors come and watch the auditions, and they do casting based on that. The BFAs do a solo, which is kind of just a chance for them to dance as who they are, because a lot of times the work we make isn't necessarily how we dance.
Sure.
We're trying to make the people in front of us look the best as possible.
Okay.
So it kind of gives them a chance to show their unique performative style, and kind of more like a little bow for them, I guess, in a way.
Sure.
But the main bulk of the work of that class is the group pieces, because that's what they're learning, how to collaborate with the people in the space. Some of them are collaborating with musicians in the School of Music. So our attention's a little bit more focused on the group pieces.
Interesting.
But you'll see both in the show.
And how many students are we talking about typically in a cohort of seniors?
There are 8 this year.
Okay.
We have 8 BAs and 8 BFAs.
Okay.
That's
So
not what I
that'll be a
meant.
show.
We have 4 BAs and 4 BFAs.
All right. So sounds like a great show. And I would imagine that if they're not collaborating with musicians themselves, they're choosing music, right, and having that going on.
Yeah, and that's always they have to get the rights to their music for the show, and that always becomes a thing. It's always a challenging item no matter what. I always make them do it because you have to do it once you leave here, and a lot of them don't know how to even begin to do that. Or they try once and be like, didn't get it. I'm like, try again, because it's super important. We want to give people credit for their work, but also like don't want to be sued and things like that. And I also want them to know how important that is and how the process is and how they need to do it way in advance to make sure they can use their music on the stage, and what kind of licenses allow them to use their music on the stage or for video or different things like that. So it's highly annoying and hard for them, but it's a really important part of the process that we always kind of work together to get through.
That's great to hear that you're getting that practical side in there as well. There are definitely some of those things across, I think, our college that students sometimes don't quite grasp how important they are, kind of from the businessy side.
That, and it's like it also encourages them to actually collaborate with musicians so they don't have to worry about this process. And all of them take choreography 2 with me before this class. And we always do a project where they work with a composer from the School of Music. And the last 2 years, we've had 1 or 2 people in the seniors work with that same person that they worked with during that project, or chose someone else so they can have original music. So I'm always encouraging them to have original music if they can.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for talking with us today. It's been great to catch up on your goings-on, and we look forward to seeing your students on stage starting on
November 12th is opening night.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
All right,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Bye-bye.
The Art Beat, a weekly program putting you in touch with artists and arts events from the J.T. and Margaret Talkington College of Visual and Performing Arts at Texas Tech University.